What is up, YouTube? I am back again. Hopefully I sound less nasally because I actually took my allergy medicine today. So let's listen to my beautiful voice and get into the video. So we're going to still continue on this masculinity and manhood ride while you sit here and watch me play Stealth Masters. So I think today one of the ideas that came to mind that I wanted to kind of talk about was that being chronically online is terrible for your brain. Not just because of the normal things that people tell you, but realistically, a lot of things that matter for success in life is legitimately who you know. What you know is important. I would never tell you not to worry about what you know, because otherwise I would not be focusing on getting a PhD and becoming an absolute expert in my field. So techniques and knowledge matters. But if you have the techniques and the knowledge and you have nowhere to apply it, it's useless, right? I just set up this that doesn't matter. But sorry, I got distracted. But I was saying that techniques and knowledge matters, but if you have nowhere to apply it, it doesn't really help much. So what I was thinking about is the fact that we have become so reliant on technology and the internet, for example, that so many of us have gotten terrible at basic communication, holding basic conversations. Here in this video, you're gonna hear me say and like a lot because I'm trying to multitask. And as I get better at this, the ums and likes will go away. But if you talk to me on a normal basis, you're not going to get the ums and likes. Most of the time, you're going to get a more fluent conversation because I'm focusing just on talking to you. But help me get better at multitasking by letting me yap at you guys. So what I was saying by this is that you can learn so much online, right? We have podcasts, we have $2,300 for 100 of these. I will take. And I'll take a revolver to save my behind. Back to the same conversation though. Is that conversational skills, social skills can open so many doors. So many people say that they can't become successful because they don't have the inside knowledge or the inside group that many old money families have, or that people who have doctors and lawyers are in their family can connect them to. And that doesn't matter realistically, because you can always go and build your own circle. I was always grateful that when I was very young, even though I am I'm one of the, that's on the younger side of millennials, right? That I did not have a smartphone until I got to college. So that means most of social media back in the day, Facebook and all those other things, I really didn't have. I didn't get it until I absolutely had to for some of my college classes, because some of our assignments had to be using social media, because I was a Spanish minor at the time, to talk to people in other countries and practice my Spanish. So it means most of my life, all up until I was 19 or 20, was offline. So it means I had to meet new people face to face, have a conversation, be engaged, have good nonverbal communication skills, know how to read those things in person in real time. And guess what? Those skills paid off, because ultimately, when I got to college, it got me lots of scholarships. When I got on college campus, it got me lots of internships and opportunities. And then when I was applying for medical schools and graduate schools, it got me lots of offers and made sure that I continued my education for free. And that's just because I'm good at talking to people. People want to be around me and they find my conversations engaging. Having good conversations is a skill set. It is not a gift. Even if you're an introvert, which I am an introvert, hard to believe, but yes, I am an introvert. But I'm good at conversation. I'm good at listening, internalizing, processing, understanding, and then responding appropriately. And if you take genuine interest in people, you're able to focus and you're able to have solid conversations. Life. Ooh, he's about to take me out. I'm a little nervous, guys. Give me a second. I got a little nervous. Let me get him really quick. All right. All right, we can go back to this conversation now. But yes, getting those skill sets are possible. All you have to do is practice with it. It's actually a skill set that got me all those different opportunities. And yes, it's going to be awkward the first time you go through it a few times. I actually don't remember what the numbers are. Let me go back. It's going to be awkward the first few times you do it. For me, it was all of my childhood. I remember vividly walking in downtown, going to the doctors as a child, walking past the winos and the drunkards and the dope fiends leaning over, bent over as we're going to the doctors. And my mom constantly, sometimes physically beating it into me, saying that saying hi doesn't hurt. Whether or not these people were drunkards, whether or not these people were dope fiends, whether or not these people were homeless, she wanted me to make sure that every single person that we walked by, I dignified with a response and acknowledgement of their existence. So at that point, speaking to strangers, not difficult. Then the second thing came up to be is the fact that my mom had no respect to person. All people were important. All people deserved respect. All people deserved attention, and that you paid attention to when they were speaking and you responded appropriately. So what did that mean? When I walked into rooms, even if there was a super famous person or super important person, I treated them the exact same as I would treat a janitor or treat a coworker or treat a person who's going to be my subordinate. So, give me 1 second, guys. All right, we back in action. I told you guys, give me a second. But yes, we were talking about me walking into rooms and having no respect to person, right? So that is what I learned from my mother, and that's changed so many doors. It's given me mentors because I come across as confident, competent. Sometimes it may have off-put a few people. I think it's more so, I hate to say this, more insecure people. There's been times where I walked into conversations and had conversations with some seemingly very important people, but to me, they're still normal people. And some of the people who would want to advise me just because the way I come off of, you can come off as arrogant. But people who truly know me know that I'm not arrogant. But it can come off that way because you're treating everyone exactly the same. You don't have that awestruck or that feeling like, oh my goodness, this person is all. No, you're a person. And yes, you've achieved status, and I will acknowledge that your positions are important. I will give respect and honor to the positions that are due, but I'm not going to kiss the ground that you walk on because you're not my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So for me, having those conversations and being bold enough to have the conversations that most people are too afraid to do opened so many doors, because there are very few people who will go to those people on their own, start those conversations, start those relationships, and share information about themselves. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. As I said before, it's a skill that gets better as you do it. And I'm noticing now, even as I'm being more immersed into online culture and social media, that some of those skills are waning, but it's also just a benefit, not a benefit, but a factor of that. My world and my work is also shrinking. As I become more specialized in the work that I do, the types of people that I'm surrounded by are becoming a more narrow sliver of the population. So they tend to be more homogenous in thought pattern. They tend to be more consistent in cultural thoughts and cultural experiences and lifestyles. So it makes it sometimes a little bit more difficult to kind of code switch and make sure you're moving between different locations well, because in each environment you're in, there's a certain code of conduct and social norms that's super important. That's very, very clear for me because of my previous training. The way that you act in a hospital, the way you work with your colleagues, the people, your superiors, is very, very, very different than how you're working in an academic research environment. When you're in the hospital or you're inside of a pharmaceutical company or something of that nature, big pharma, big pharmaceuticals, it is very military and militant. because at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, someone dies. And as a result, the blame has to go to somewhere. It has to go to someone. And so if you disobey orders, it falls on your head, therefore the responsibility falls on you. So people have to make sure that everyone's falling in line, people are doing things the proper way, so that if anything goes wrong, the blame is properly accounted for. Now, on the research side, it's much more laissez-faire, it's much more Socratic, it's much more open discussion. Even though I'm technically your boss and supervisor on paper, we're equals. I've literally seen advisors get laid out verbally, like cursed out by their trainees and their mentees. And that's fine for them. And that would never fly in the medical or pharmaceutical space. That happens, you're immediately terminated. So understanding that you can't treat every single situation exactly the same, and that you have the social intelligence and emotional intelligence that when you're walking into the room, you're reading all the nonverbal cues, you're aware of what's expected of you. And sometimes you won't know until you get there. But understanding you can adapt and adjust as you go. And so being a very competent man comes with the territory where you can communicate clearly. And I think that's one of the biggest deficits that most men have today. The ability to communicate clearly and effectively. You don't have to use a bunch of big words. You just have to be clear, concise, and also just be appropriate. You don't have to curse all the time. You can convey your thoughts with normal, well-spoken, well-thought-out words. If you don't have anything to say, it's good to just either affirm, let someone know that, let me chew on that for a little bit. Let me think about that. And sometimes silence can be your best friend. Sometimes you learn so much about people because you might not have anything to say, but because they're so insecure about the silence, they'll keep talking. And they'll think that you're a social genius just because you allow them to talk, and now you're a great listener. So my challenge to all of you who are listening and manage to stay this long throughout this rant is to go outside, go somewhere where you love to go. If you love video games, try to find an arcade. Go to a Dave & Buster's. Go somewhere where you can go around people who like playing games. And make it your goal to meet one new person, strike up a conversation, know their name, where they work, where they live, what their profession is, and just get to know a brand new person. That person does not have to be your friend. That person does not have to become a reference or a potential job or a prospect or a lead. Just learn to start connecting to people on a person-to-person basis. As men, we have a very hard time learning how to just to deal with people. And this is why when it comes to like approaching women and things like that, you come off as desperate, you come off as tense and anxious. If you just get used to reaching out to people and treating them as people, it becomes so much easier. And then also you learn so much more because now as you've contacted these new people who have different lived experiences, different thought processes, different education levels, different job titles, different travel histories, different language barriers. Sometimes you can practice your brand new language if you're trying to learn a new language. You'll be surprised at what you learn. And I think that for me, when I'm on social media, sometimes it feels like the world is coming to an end because you see only the most extreme of views on either side. But then when you go out to the real world, you start talking to people. Yeah, there's a few people that aren't wrapped too tight. Yeah, there's a few people who you might want to have committed at some point. But for the most part, most people are struggling to get by day, and they're just normal people. And you can learn a lot from just normal people. You don't have to be in a classroom to learn. So I think right now, my challenge to you guys is to go out, find somewhere you want to go, park, gym, arcade, skating rink, bowling alley, any place where you'll bump into a bunch of new people that you've never bumped into before. Start a conversation with a brand new person and with the goal of just getting to know information about them and also share information about you. Get used to talking about yourself. I don't forget. What I was about to say is that there's a conference I recently went to, and they were emphasizing the importance of telling stories. Because humans as creatures, if you're a scientist, you'll say we've evolved. But if you're a person who have faith, as like us, who believe in Christ, we were designed to learn through stories. Most of the Bible is written in story form so we can internalize a lot of the teachings. When Jesus teaches, he teaches through parables, very very allegorical stories. So narrative is a very powerful tool for humans to start understanding each other, understanding the world that we're in, understanding the most valuable lessons that we can encapsulate are typically taught in stories. This is why we teach kids fairy tales, folk tales, folklores. There's usually embedded morals and knowledge and nuggets that the kids can pull from those narratives and pull from those stories. And that's true of anything. If you even take your own life and turn it into a narrative, turn it into a story, get good at start talking about yourself, not in an arrogant way, but in a way in which you're able to really touch that other person, touch that other individual, you'll really learn how to connect with people. And if you can do that, you become a very, very, very powerful man. Because at that point, it's exactly the person who likes to sell, who can sell cars, whatever else that of that nature, sell life insurance, whatever they choose to sell. But if you can learn to tell a good story, and you start with telling the stories that you've lived, the knowledge that you have, the experiences that you have, the value that you've learned just from laying down and getting back up, your entire world can change. Because that ability to connect to people is what's going to get you into the right rooms. That ability to connect to people will take you where money and status and fame can never take you. Because that ability to connect to people brings trust, it brings transparency, it brings authenticity, it brings all of those things that as humans that we are intangibly connected to, that we seek out, but we don't really know how to put our hands on and try to figure out exactly how do I show that. And the way you show that is by telling clear and convincing and compelling stories, and also living out those stories. So you can tell people these transformative stories and they can start seeing like, oh, I can see how you got there. I can see that's a part of you. I can see how that turned into how you are today. And it's not easy either. Even though I'm good at those social communications, I'm good at talking to people, I'm good at keeping them engaged in those fast-paced conversations, having to sit down and really think about my own story, think about my own experiences, and trying to figure out how to communicate that in a way that's compelling, that's interesting, that's captivating, that's meaningful to other people, that's not just myself, took effort. And I think I'm going to take the next 5 minutes to show you an example of what this looks like, because it was really powerful to me. And it's something I want to continue to work on and try to craft as I continue to move out throughout my expertise and continue to grow. So I think I will share this with you guys, be a little vulnerable, just because I think it's important. And it was a great lesson for me. Like I said, I'm going to continue to work on this, but I think you guys should start doing it too. So let me first tell you what the assignment was, and then I'll show you what my crack at it was. If you want to time it, you can, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be a little over 5 minutes when I actually do the real story. I think I actually went over 5 minutes when I did the story as well on the day of, but you'll get the gist. You want to get to the point where, which I'm working on as well, you can tell a short story, an elevator pitch, and a long story that is not going to get boring and meandering and keep people engaged. The ability to move through all of those different types of situations will benefit you greatly. Interviews become a breeze. Connecting with people very quickly, forming very strong bonds becomes a breeze. The ability for your brain to process information and really know what grounds you, the things that are important to you, becomes amazing. So let's get down to what the assignment was. So the assignment is for a group of scientists to tell a short 5-minute story on some aspect of their scientific journey. So that could be anything from, what does the day-to-day life of a scientist look like? How many scientists do you guys know? What does the day in the life of a scientist look like? If it had to be spoken to you in words and not a vlog. How did you get into science? What made you interested? Was that a single event? Was it something tied over time? Was it because you watched your family? Was it because you watched your mother, your father, your favorite celebrity was a scientist or played a scientist? Did you always like playing with stethoscopes as a child? Playing with Legos and Connects? So they were giving us this incubator basically to focus on a very singular task. Talk about our scientific journey in 5 minutes and make it captivating. And truth be told, I struggled. I did not know which story I was going to tell because I wasn't the norm. I'm still not the norm. The way I think about my career and the way I think about my day-to-day job is not the way that most of the people in my job, in my career, thinks about it. It's pretty much out of the bag that I'm telling you guys I'm a scientist. So many scientists like working with their hands. They like doing the job, collecting the data, and doing the experiments. I can tell you honestly, I could care less. The only reason I do my experiments is because I need the data, and I can do the fun part, which I love to do. Communicate about the data, tell you the impact, why it matters, and what we can do with it to actually change the world for a better place. And we can't change the world for a better place. We know one way not to do it. So for me, the data collection process, the working with my hand part, gets me to a point where I can do the part that I really care about, which is why I said this storytelling assignment and workshop of the conference was so fascinating to me and so helpful and so eye-opening. But let me show you my attempt in terms of my transition to science and my thought process of kind of coming in a very reluctant and hesitant manner. So I'll start off here. It's the first day of high school. I'm sitting in the back of the homeroom, running the same words through my head like a drum beat. Get straight A's, get a full ride to Hopkins, go to medical school, become a doctor. That was it. My mantra, my guiding light. Not because I dreamed of saving lives when I was 5, not because I loved toy stethoscopes. No, it came from conversations with my mother when she told me, if you want to go to college, that's on you. Nobody's paying for it. So the path was simple. In my mind, I just thought good grades buys me scholarships. Scholarships buys me college. College buys me access to medical school. Medical school buys me access to becoming a doctor. Having a career as a doctor buys me access to a strong income, strong paycheck. And that strong paycheck buys me freedom. What is that freedom? Freedom was the most important thing to me. That freedom was to choose how my family would live and feel safe. Freedom from not being at the whim of every wind and every change, every governmental shift. I had the ability to control my destiny with my own pockets. So to me, high school wasn't about prom or friends. For me, it was a stepping stone. But my ambition wasn't born in a vacuum. When I was in the 6th grade, I interviewed my grandmother. She told me about working barefoot from sunup to sundown, being beaten if she didn't pick enough cotton or string enough tobacco. She told me about having to run away in the middle of the night, leaving their sharecropping land because they had to escape because they could never pay back the debt, leaving everything behind. And still, she built a life in Baltimore City, 6 kids, multiple homes, and yet every time she climbed a step, family pulled her 20 steps back. And her grit was unmatched, and her heart was always wide open, always accepting those same demons back in. And I thought, I'll finish what she started. I'll show her a life that she never got to live. And that was the fire that was behind my mantra. To achieve the goal, not like my other family members that would forfeit their lives or their freedom, to try to get that glitz and glamour, that freedom, that monetary freedom. But I would do it with my mind. Get straight A's, get a full ride to Hopkins, go to medical school, become a doctor. So I attacked my studies in high school like my life depended on it. And in many cases, it did. I worked harder, I slept less, I tried every trick, flashcards, outlines, highlighting, pre-reading, rereading, rereading. I literally poured my blood, sweat, and tears into my work. At 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I sat crying at my desk, wondering why I was working 10 times harder than everyone else and getting none of the results. And what results? Pop quiz number 1, 60%. Pop quiz number 2, 46%. Pop quiz number 3, after incorporating flashcards, outlines, highlighting, pre-reading, 20%. Now try the rereading, note reorganization, 10%. Every red mark felt like a personal offense. And the joy of learning that I thought I once had died. By sophomore year, I snapped. I was exhausted. The only question I can think to mutter was, why struggle and fail when I can fail without even trying? At least I can conserve my energy. And so I stopped writing, I stopped highlighting, I stopped doing the most, and I just listened. And suddenly my grades shot up, and turns out I was an auditory learner. And for the first time, I could start making my effort match my results. And with it, my mantra came back to life. Get straight A's, get a full ride to Hopkins, go to medical school, become a doctor. And then came the lab. I didn't want to do research. I tried to hide all the flyers, all the information that was coming from school to getting to my mom, because in my mind, all I could think, mice? Gross. Scientists? Poor. But my mother found out and said, try it. Worst case scenario, you quit. And so there I was, 16 years old, in the Hopkins lab, preparing a buffer. I added sodium hydroxide, and suddenly the glass of bottle heated up in my hands. I was bewildered, completely confused. But a few weeks later in AP chemistry class, I learned about exothermic reactions, the real reason why just salt and water can heat up. And just like that, the textbook wasn't abstract anymore. The knowledge that was hidden within those pages had came to life. It was living knowledge. That moment revived what I thought was gone forever, my joy of learning. And suddenly my mantra didn't feel quite so simple anymore, because get a straight A's, get a full ride to Hopkins, go to medical school, become a doctor, ? The bottom of my hands cracked open a brand new path, one that didn't fit so neatly inside my mantra. So because I didn't just want a title, I wanted a life where I could continue to learn forever. And how I wrestled with that new love for research, that's a story for another day. But now, the very best part of doing science is sharing that love of learning, letting knowledge come alive, passing the spark to the next generation. That's what I live for. Mentoring, shaping new talent, protecting what wasn't protected from me over a decade ago. That fragile, beautiful joy of learning. Straight A's, Hopkins, med school, doctor. That was my mantra. But today, my mantra is simple. Keep the joy of learning alive. So you tell me, was that fascinating? Was that interesting, seeing a person who didn't grow up wanting to be an experimental biologist, person who wasn't thinking about doing experiments, didn't like dissecting frogs out in the backyard of the creek? But those was something that came to realization from, I had a very fixed and focused journey and got pulled away from it by going back and rediscovering my love of learning. Let me know and see if you guys can do the same activity. Take your profession or take whatever you're doing. So it's a great introspective moment where you can sit down and think about whatever you're doing. What drew you to that field? What's making you do what you do right now? If it's not something you're passionate about, try to figure out how can you turn whatever you're doing into your passion. That doesn't mean that, if you're working in construction and that can never be your passion. But try to figure out how you can take that situation, the money you're earning, the context you're making, to figure out, well, if construction is not my end game, how do I take this opportunity and pivot to something I'm more passionate about, something that I love, something that I look forward to getting up every day that actually provides value to the world. But I've been yapping your guys' ears off for a very, very, very long time today. I've been trying to do the 15-minute videos, but Lord knows I love the yap. So hopefully this right here was impactful for you guys. This was interesting. But I'd love to hear your comments down below in the comment section. So I'm super active when you guys just drop comments. I look forward to hearing from you guys. But as always, peace and blessings. Peace.